The Unexpected War. In a small village on Earth, nestled between rolling hills and vast fields, lived a young woman named Mira. She was known for her kindness and adventurous spirit. Every day, she helped her neighbors and tended to her garden. But today was different. Today would change everything. As the sun rose, Mira noticed something strange in the sky. Dark clouds gathered above, swirling ominously. The villagers whispered nervously, casting worried glances at each other. What is happening? Mira thought, her heart racing. She felt a sense of unease creeping over her. Suddenly, a loud rumble echoed through the air. It was not thunder but the sound of engines, massive engines. Mira looked up, shielding her eyes from the sunlight. From behind the dark clouds emerged enormous ships, sleek and silver, gliding silently above them. The villagers gasped in fear, their faces pale. Aliens, someone shouted, pointing to the sky. Mira's heart pounded in her chest. She had always imagined what aliens might look like, but seeing them here, hovering over her home, filled her with dread. The ships landed in the village square, creating a tremor that shook the ground beneath their feet. The villagers scrambled to hide, but Mira stood frozen, curiosity battling her fear. From the ships emerged figures that were both fascinating and terrifying. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like the night sky. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and their movements were graceful yet intimidating. Mira felt a mix of wonder and terror as she watched them approach. The leader of the aliens stepped forward. It raised a hand, and a strange device on its wrist began to glow. "People of Earth," it announced, its voice resonating like music. "We come in peace. We are the Zenthari, and we seek your cooperation." The villagers were still hiding, peeking from behind walls and trees. Mira took a deep breath and stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" she called out, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. The Zenthari leader turned its glowing eyes toward her. "We need your help," it said. "Our world is in danger. A powerful force threatens us, and we believe Earth holds the key to our survival." Mira felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they were not here to conquer, but to ask for assistance. "What kind of help do you need?" she asked, stepping closer. The leader explained that a rival alien race, the Krithar, was attacking their home planet. The Krithar wanted to steal Zenthari technology to dominate the galaxy. The Zenthari had heard tales of Earth's bravery and resilience, and believed that humans could aid them in their fight. Mira looked around at her fellow villagers, who were slowly coming out of their hiding places. She saw fear on their faces, but also a glimmer of curiosity. "We can help," she said, her voice stronger now. "But we need to understand what we are up against." The Zenthari leader nodded, grateful for her courage. "We will show you," it said. With a wave of its hand, a holographic image appeared in the air above them. It displayed the Zenthari planet, beautiful and vibrant, but shadowed by looming Krithar ships. Mira listened intently as the Zenthari explained their situation. They needed Earth's technology to create a defense system, but more importantly, they needed human spirit and bravery. The villagers watched in awe as the aliens shared their story. Slowly, the fear began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose. "We will stand with you," Mira declared, glancing around at her neighbors. "Together, we can fight against the Krithar." The Zenthari leader smiled, and for the first time, Mira saw hope reflected in its eyes. "Thank you," it said, voice full of gratitude. "With your help, we can protect both our worlds." As the villagers began to discuss how they could assist, Mira felt a surge of excitement. This was her chance to be part of something greater than herself. She could help defend not just her home, but a whole planet in need. The unexpected war had begun, and they would face it together. The Zenthari quickly set up a base in the village, turning an old barn into a command center. The villagers, led by Mira, worked side by side with the aliens, sharing knowledge and skills. The Zenthari taught them about advanced technology, while the humans shared their strategies for survival and tactics from history. Mira learned quickly. She became the bridge between two worlds, communicating ideas and concerns. The Zenthari marveled at human creativity, while the villagers were amazed by the advanced technology the aliens possessed. They worked day and night, building defenses and crafting weapons. But as the days passed, the Krethar continued their advance. Their ships were spotted in the distance, blackening the horizon. The tension in the village grew, but so did the determination. Mira and her friends were no longer just villagers. They were warriors ready to fight for their home and the Zenthari people. Finally, the day of the battle arrived. Mira stood with the Zenthari, looking out at the approaching Krethar ships. Her heart raced, but she felt a surge of strength from her friends beside her. They were ready to defend their worlds together. The unexpected war had brought them together, forging bonds that transcended the stars. And in that moment, Mira knew they would fight with everything they had. Together, they would face whatever came next. The day of the battle had arrived, and the atmosphere in the village was electric with tension and determination. Mira stood alongside her new allies, the Zenthari, as they prepared to face the approaching threat. The once peaceful village had transformed into a hub of activity, filled with a mix of excitement and fear. In the command center, the Zenthari leader, known as Kara, outlined their battle strategy. "We must defend the village and protect our technology," Sara instructed, its voice steady and calm. "The Krethar will not show mercy. We need to be united and strong." Mira felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She looked around at the villagers, their faces painted with resolve. Each one had stepped forward to help, ready to defend their home. "We've trained hard, and we know how to work together," Mira said, addressing both the villagers and the Zenthari. "Let's use that to our advantage." As they discussed their strategy, Mira noticed a young villager named Thomas. He was only a teenager, but his eagerness was palpable. He had been helping in the workshops, learning how to craft weapons from the Zenthari technology. "I want to fight too," he exclaimed, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. Zara nodded at Thomas. "Courage is needed in battle, but we must also be wise. We need to protect the civilians. Are you prepared for that role?" Thomas hesitated for a moment, but then straightened his back. "Yes, I'll help organize the defenses and keep everyone safe," he replied. Mira felt a wave of pride for him. This was the spirit they needed. As they finalized their plans, the sky darkened, and a chilling wind blew through the village. The villagers shivered, but their spirits remained high. They gathered supplies, armed themselves, and fortified their positions. Mira watched as everyone worked together, each person knowing their role in the defense. Suddenly, a Zenthari scout rushed into the command center, its face a mask of urgency. "They are coming," it shouted, pointing to the horizon. Mira rushed outside and squinted into the distance. Dark shapes loomed, the Krethar ships descending like shadows over the landscape. "Everyone to your positions," Mira shouted, rallying the villagers. She felt a surge of adrenaline as she ran to her designated spot. The villagers had set up makeshift barricades, using wooden planks and debris to create a line of defense. Sara took its place beside Mira, a fierce determination etched on its face. "Remember, we are stronger together. Trust in your training and in each other," it said, glancing at the incoming ships. The ground trembled as the Krethar ships drew closer. Mira could see their dark, menacing forms, each ship adorned with spikes and symbols of conquest. Her heart raced, but she steeled herself, focusing on the task at hand. She took a deep breath, readying her mind for battle. As the Krethar ships began to descend, they unleashed a barrage of energy blasts toward the village. Mira ducked behind a barricade, her heart pounding as blasts exploded around her. The villagers screamed, but they held their ground, returning fire with the weapons they had crafted. Mira watched in awe as the Zenthari technology illuminated the battlefield. Bright beams of energy shot toward the Krethar ships, striking them with precision. The air crackled with energy, and Mira felt a rush of hope. They were holding their own against the invaders. "Keep firing," Sarah shouted, coordinating the defense. The villagers worked in sync with the Zenthuri, shooting and reloading, their fear transforming into fierce determination. Mira joined them, her hand steady as she aimed her weapon. Suddenly, a Krethar ship veered toward her position, and she felt a rush of panic. It was descending rapidly, preparing to land. "Look out," she yelled, but it was too late. The ship landed with a loud crash, sending shockwaves through the ground. The hatch of the ship opened, and a group of Krethar soldiers emerged, their dark armor glinting menacingly in the fading light. They charged toward the villagers, weapons raised. Mira felt a surge of adrenaline, ready to fight, but she knew they needed to stay organized. "Form a line," she shouted, rallying the villagers. "Stay together." The villagers responded, forming a defensive line beside the Zenthuri. They stood shoulder to shoulder, united against the common enemy. Mira's heart raced as the Krethar soldiers approached, their eyes filled with malice. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. The first clash of battle echoed through the village. Energy blasts met the Krethar weapons in a dazzling display of light and sound. Mira fought alongside her neighbors, their bravery pushing her forward. She dodged and weaved, firing her weapon with a steady aim. Despite the chaos around her, she noticed something remarkable. The villagers were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the Zenthuri as well. Bonds forged in the days leading up to this moment were now solidified in the heat of battle. As the clash continued, Mira spotted Thomas, bravely defending a group of civilians. He was directing them to safety, his voice calm amidst the chaos. A wave of pride washed over her. He was proving to be a true leader, even at his young age. Just when it seemed like they might gain the upper hand, another wave of Krethar soldiers emerged from the shadows, their numbers overwhelming. Mira's heart sank as she saw the villagers struggling to hold their ground. "We can't give up," she shouted, rallying her friends. Zara stood beside her, its expression fierce. "We must push back. This battle is not just for survival, it is for our future." With that, the Zenthuri launched an attack, charging forward with a fierce determination that inspired everyone around. Mira felt a fire ignite within her. They were not just fighting to defend their home, but to protect the future of two worlds. With renewed strength, she joined Sarah and the others, fighting back against the Krethar with all her might. The battle raged on, each moment filled with adrenaline and fear. But amidst the chaos, hope bloomed. Together, they could achieve the impossible. Together, they would face the gathering storm. As the battle intensified, Mira knew that this was only the beginning. They had united to protect their worlds, and no matter the odds, they would stand strong. The unexpected war had begun, and they would fight to the end. A fierce battle continued to rage around the village as Mira and her allies fought with all their might against the Krethar invaders. Explosions echoed in the distance, and the air was thick with smoke and the scent of scorched earth. The villagers and the Zenthuri stood together, their bonds forged in the fire of conflict, united in purpose and spirit. Mira's heart raced as she ducked behind a barricade, reloading her weapon with trembling hands. She took a moment to catch her breath, glancing around to assess the situation. The villagers fought bravely, but the Krethar soldiers were relentless. They pushed forward, determined to break through the defenses. "Keep fighting," Mira shouted, urging her friends to hold the line. "We can't let them take our home." Zara, standing nearby, surveyed the battlefield. Its sharp gaze flicked between the villagers and the advancing Krethar. "We need a new strategy," it said, its voice steady amidst the chaos. "We must flank them. Mira, gather your most skilled fighters. We will create a distraction." Mira nodded, her mind racing. "Let's draw them away from the main group," she said, determination filling her voice. She quickly gathered a handful of villagers who had shown exceptional skill in their training, including Thomas, who had proven to be resourceful and brave. "Follow my lead," Mira instructed, and the group moved to a side street where they could remain hidden for the moment. As they positioned themselves, she glanced back at the main front line. The Krethar were closing in, and the villagers were struggling to keep them at bay. "Ready?" Mira whispered to her team. They all nodded, gripping their weapons tightly. "On my signal, we'll draw their attention and create a path for the others to escape." With a deep breath, Mira peeked around the corner, spotting a cluster of Krethar soldiers engaged in battle with the Zenthari. "Now," she shouted, charging out with her team behind her. They opened fire, targeting the Krethar soldiers, their energy blasts lighting up the darkened street. The Krethar soldiers turned, surprised by the sudden attack from the side. Mira and her team pressed forward, using their agility and teamwork to create confusion among the enemy ranks. The Krethar stumbled back, momentarily distracted from the main battle. "Keep it up," Mira encouraged her team. "We have to make them believe we're stronger." The battle was intense, and Mira could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every shot they fired seemed to inspire confidence in the villagers fighting on the front lines. Mira's heart swelled with pride as she saw more of her fellow villagers rally to the cause, joining the fight with renewed energy. As the distraction continued, Sarah took the opportunity to organize a counteroffensive. The Zenthari, with their advanced technology, began to push back against the Krethar, slowly reclaiming ground that had been lost. Mira could see the tide of battle shifting, and it filled her with hope. "Let's retreat to the main group," Mira yelled to her team as they began to outnumber the Krethar. They fought their way back, creating a path for themselves as they fell into step beside the Zenthari warriors. The villagers were exhausted, but their spirits soared as they witnessed their combined strength. "Great work, everyone," Mira said, her voice filled with pride. She looked at Thomas, who was panting but smiling brightly. "You fought bravely. I was just following your lead," he replied, his eyes shining with excitement. Mira couldn't help but smile back. The battle had brought them all closer together. As they regrouped with the main force, Sarah began to formulate a new plan. "We need to take advantage of our technology," it said, pointing to a nearby Zenthari ship that had landed in the village. "If we can use its weapons, we can turn the tide in our favor." Mira glanced at the ship, her heart racing at the thought of wielding such power. "Let's do it," she exclaimed, feeling the surge of confidence. "We can't let the Krethar win." The group quickly made their way to the ship, dodging energy blasts as they moved. Sarah expertly maneuvered the Zenthari technology, its many arms working quickly to prepare the weapons for use. Mira and her team took positions around the ship, ready to defend it while the Zenthari activated its systems. As the ship powered up, a low hum filled the air. Bright lights flickered to life, illuminating the battlefield. The Krethar noticed the change and began to shift their focus toward the ship, recognizing the threat it posed. "Hold the line," Mira shouted to her team as they prepared for the inevitable onslaught. The Krethar soldiers charged, but Mira and her friends stood their ground, determined to protect their newfound advantage. The Zenthari ship unleashed a torrent of energy blasts, raining down on the Krethar forces. The ground shook beneath them as the weapons fired, creating shockwaves that sent Krethar soldiers tumbling. Mira felt a rush of exhilaration as they began to push back the enemy. "Now is our chance," Sarah called out, leading the charge. The villagers and Zenthari surged forward, the line between ally and enemy blurring in the chaos of battle. They fought as one, a powerful force against the Krethar. Mira felt her heart pounding in her chest as she joined the charge, her weapon raised high. This was their moment, a moment where they could reclaim their village and their future. The unexpected war had transformed them all, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the tide of battle shifted, Mira knew that the fight was far from over. But with her allies by her side, she felt invincible. Together, they would show the Krethar that they would not be defeated. Together, they would emerge victorious. The first step to understanding. The echoes of battle faded, but the tension in the air remained thick. The Krithar were retreating, their soldiers scrambling to regroup and reevaluate their strategy. Mira stood at the forefront, her heart racing, a mix of triumph and exhaustion coursing through her. The villagers had fought valiantly, and their bond with the Zenthari was stronger than ever. But even amidst the victory, Mira felt a lingering uncertainty. "Is it over?" Thomas asked, wiping sweat from his brow. His face was smeared with dirt and soot, but his eyes shone with determination. "For now," Mira replied, glancing around at the wreckage and scattered debris. "But we need to be ready. They might come back with reinforcements." Zara, the Zenthari leader, stepped forward, its many eyes observing the aftermath of the battle. "You have fought with great courage," it said, its voice resonating through the village. "But to ensure our survival, we must understand our enemy." Mira nodded, knowing Zara was right. "What do we need to do?" she asked, eager to act. "We must gather intelligence about the Krithar," Zara explained. "We need to know their numbers, their strategies, and what motivates them. Only then can we prepare for the next encounter." Mira felt a rush of energy. "I can help with that. I know the woods and the paths around here. If they try to regroup, I'll be able to spot them." "Excellent," Zara replied. "But you will not go alone. We will send a team of Zenthari warriors with you. They have the technology and skills needed to gather information safely." Thomas stepped forward, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "I want to join too. I can help scout the area. I know how to move quietly." Mira smiled, grateful for his enthusiasm. "Let's do it together then." The group prepared quickly, gathering supplies and discussing their strategy. Mira felt a sense of purpose fill her. This wasn't just about survival. It was about understanding the enemy to secure a future for her village and for the Zenthari. Once the team was ready, they set off into the forests surrounding the village. The trees towered above them, their leaves whispering secrets as the wind rustled through the branches. Mira led the way, moving with quiet confidence as she recalled her childhood adventures in these woods. "Stay close," Mira whispered, glancing back at her companions. The Zenthari warriors moved silently, their sleek forms blending with the shadows. Thomas followed closely, his expression a mix of focus and excitement. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Mira shared stories of her past with Thomas, recounting tales of exploring hidden paths and secret clearings. He listened intently, his eyes wide with wonder. "I never knew there was so much to discover here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's more than meets the eye," Mira replied, a smile on her lips. "But we need to keep our wits about us. The Krithar could be anywhere." Suddenly, they heard the rustle of leaves nearby. Mira signaled for everyone to stop. Her heart raced as she focused on the sound. It was close, too close. Zara's eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Stay low," it instructed, its voice barely audible. The Zenthari warriors spread out, using their advanced training to blend into the surroundings. Mira crouched down, her senses heightened. She could see the shadows moving ahead. It looked like a small group of Krithar soldiers, murmuring amongst themselves. The sight sent a chill down her spine. "We should listen," Mira whispered. "We might learn something." The group crept closer, their bodies tense with anticipation. Mira strained to hear the Krithar's conversation, her heart pounding in her ears. The alien language was harsh and guttural, but she caught snippets of words that sent her mind racing. "Reinforcements," one soldier grunted. "They will arrive soon. We need to regroup." Mira exchanged glances with Thomas and Zara, understanding dawning in her eyes. This was exactly what they needed to know. The Krithar were planning to return with more soldiers. As they listened, a plan began to form in Mira's mind. "If we can figure out their movements, we can set up traps or ambushes," she murmured to her team. "Smart thinking," Kara replied, its eyes narrowing as it focused on the Krithar. but we need to be cautious. If they notice us, it could jeopardize our mission." Mira nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. They had to learn more, but it was dangerous to stay too long. Just then, one of the Krethar turned, looking directly in their direction. Mira's heart raced as she motioned for everyone to back away slowly. "Retreat," she whispered urgently, and the team began to move back silently, inching away from the Krethar while remaining as quiet as possible. Once they were a safe distance away, Mira let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "That was close," Thomas said, his voice trembling slightly. "We have what we need," Mira replied, her mind racing. "Now we just need to get back and share the information." As they made their way back to the village, Mira felt a sense of urgency. They had uncovered critical intelligence about their enemy, but they also needed to prepare for the impending fight. The Krethar would not be caught off guard again. Once they returned, Mira gathered the villagers and Zenthari to relay their findings. "The Krethar planned to bring reinforcements," she announced, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We must prepare for their return and fortify our defenses." The crowd murmured among themselves, fear and determination etched on their faces. Mira could see that they were ready to fight, ready to protect their home. With Sara's help, they began to strategize, planning traps and barricades. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the village, Mira felt a renewed sense of hope. They were no longer just survivors. They were fighters, united in their resolve to protect their homes and each other. The calm before the storm. The days following Mira's scouting mission were filled with intense preparations. The villagers and the Zenthari worked side by side, reinforcing the village's defenses while building an unbreakable bond. Mira felt a sense of pride as she watched her people come together, united by a common purpose. Each evening, they gathered in the central square to share ideas and strategies. Sara would often take the lead, explaining advanced Zenthari technology and tactics that could aid them in the upcoming battle. Mira stood beside Thomas, feeling a shared determination in the air. One evening, as they reviewed their plans, a sense of calm washed over Mira. "We've done everything we can," she said, looking around at the faces of her friends and neighbors. "Now we just need to stay vigilant." Thomas nodded. "And trust each other. We've fought together and learned from each other. That makes us stronger." Sara interjected, its many eyes shimmering with wisdom. "Strength lies not only in numbers but in unity. The bond between your kind and mine has created an unbreakable alliance. We will face whatever comes together." As night fell, Mira sat outside her home, gazing at the stars. She felt a mix of anticipation and fear. The sky was clear, a beautiful tapestry of stars twinkling above, but her heart was heavy with the knowledge of the storm that was coming. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. It was Thomas, carrying 2 mugs of warm herbal tea. He sat beside her, handing her a mug. "Thought you could use this," he said with a smile. "Thanks, Thomas," Mira replied, taking the sip. The warmth spread through her, calming her nerves. "I can't help but feel anxious about what's to come." Thomas leaned back, looking at the stars. "I get that. But remember, we're ready for them. We've trained, planned, and we're united. We can do this." Mira looked at him, grateful for his unwavering support. "You're right. It's just, I worry about everyone. They've put their trust in me, and I don't want to let them down." "You won't," he assured her. "You're a great leader, Mira. We're all in this together, and we believe in you." Together, they would stand strong against the Krethar and fight for their future. The first step to understanding had been taken, and with it, they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they sat in comfortable silence, Mira reflected on how much had changed since the arrival of the Zenthari. Their world had expanded, their understanding of each other deepened, but with that came a responsibility to protect everything they had built together. The next day, the villagers continued to fortify their defenses. They created barricades using logs and stones, and traps were set in the woods. Sarah's warriors helped to enhance their combat training, teaching the villagers how to work together in the heat of battle. Mira felt a surge of confidence, seeing everyone adapt and grow stronger. However, as the day turned into evening, an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. The villagers gathered once more in the square, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through them. "Tomorrow will be the day," Mira declared, her voice firm. "We will stand guard and be ready for the Krithar. We've prepared as best as we can, and we will fight for our homes." The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of determination washing over them. But Mira could sense the underlying tension. Everyone was aware that the fight ahead could change their lives forever. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the village, Mira felt a heaviness in her heart. She knew that not everyone would return from the battle. The thought gripped her with dread, but she pushed it aside, reminding herself that they were fighting for a brighter future. Later that night, as the village slept, Mira found herself unable to rest. She stepped outside, drawn to the quietness of the night. The stars twinkled above, and the moon hung low, casting a silver glow across the landscape. "Mira," a voice broke the stillness. It was Thomas, joining her outside. "Can't sleep either." "No," she admitted, looking out into the dark forest. "I keep thinking about what's coming." Thomas stepped closer, his presence warm and reassuring. "We've faced so much already. We can do this." She turned to him, her heart racing. "What if it's not enough? What if we lose?" He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "If we lose, we'll have fought with everything we have. That's what matters. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for each other." His words resonated deep within her, and she nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. "You're right. We can't let fear dictate our actions." With newfound determination, Mira took Thomas's hand. "We'll face whatever comes together." As they stood side by side, gazing at the stars, Mira felt a sense of peace settle within her. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but she knew that they would face them united. Together, they were stronger. With the dawn of the new day, the calm before the storm was broken, and Mira was ready to stand and fight for everything they had built, alongside her friends, her family, and her newfound allies. The battle was coming, and they would be prepared. The clash of forces. The dawn arrived with an eerie silence, the calm before the storm that Mira had felt in her heart now palpable in the air. As the sun slowly rose, casting a warm glow over the village, the villagers gathered at the central square, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. Mira stood before them, her heart racing with the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders. "Today we stand together against the Krithar," she announced, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We have trained hard. We have prepared for this moment. Together we will protect our home and each other." The crowd responded with a unified cheer, the sound echoing off the trees and filling the air with energy. Mira felt a rush of pride as she looked around at the faces of her friends and neighbors, each one ready to fight for their future. They had come a long way, and the bond between humans and Xanthari had never been stronger. As the villagers dispersed to their posts, Mira found herself beside Thomas, who was checking the traps they had set the day before. "Are you ready?" he asked, a hint of concern in his eyes. "As ready as we can be," she replied, trying to muster a smile. "We've done everything we can. Now we just have to trust each other." With a nod, they moved toward the edge of the village, where Tkara was gathering its warriors. The Xanthari stood tall, their forms sleek and agile, their advanced weapons glinting in the morning light. Mira watched as they moved with precision, a sight that filled her with awe. Sarah spotted them and approached, its multiple eyes shimmering with confidence. "We will hold the line together," Sarah stated, its voice calm. "Trust in your training, and do not lose sight of your strength. We are united in this fight." Mira nodded, feeling reassured by the Xanthari's presence, They had formed a partnership that transcended their differences, and together, they were a formidable force. As the hours passed, the tension in the air thickened. Mira stood at her post, her heart pounding as she watched the horizon. The forest was alive with sounds, but none were as chilling as the distant rumble of the approaching Krithar forces. Finally, as the sun reached its peak, a dark shadow loomed over the trees. The Krithar emerged, a wave of armored figures advancing with a menacing aura. Mira's stomach tightened as she spotted their leader, a towering figure that commanded respect and fear. It was clear that the Krithar had come with the intent to conquer. "Prepare yourselves," Mira shouted, raising her weapon high. The villagers and Zenthari rallied around her, forming a united front. Heartbeats quickened and breaths held as the two forces faced each other across the clearing. The Krithar charged forward, a relentless wave of warriors. Mira felt adrenaline surge through her veins. "Hold the line," she cried, her voice rising above the chaos. As the first Krithar reached their defenses, the clash began. Mira swung her weapon with all her strength, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The sounds of metal against metal filled the air, mingled with cries of both sides as they fought fiercely. Beside her, Thomas was a whirlwind of action, expertly dodging and countering attacks. They moved as if they had been fighting together for years, a seamless partnership forged in the fires of necessity. Sara and its warriors fought with a fierce grace, using their advanced technology to outmaneuver the Krithar. Plasma beams illuminated the battlefield, cutting through the chaos. Mira watched in awe as the Zenthari displayed their impressive skills, each movement calculated and deadly. But the Krithar were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. Mira felt a surge of fear as she saw some of the villagers fall, bravery turning into desperation. "We can't give up," she shouted, rallying those around her. "We fight for our home, for each other." With renewed determination, the villagers pushed forward, their fear transforming into a fierce resolve. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their families, their dreams, and the bonds they had formed. As the battle raged on, Mira found herself face to face with a Krithar warrior. The creature lunged at her with a vicious snarl, but she dodged, striking back with a swift blow. She could feel the weight of fear, but also the thrill of fighting alongside her friends. But just as it seemed they were gaining ground, a deafening roar echoed through the battlefield. Mira turned to see the leader of the Krithar towering above the chaos, its eyes glowing with a fierce rage. It charged toward them, a force of nature intent on breaking their spirit. "Protect each other," Sara shouted, its voice cutting through the chaos. "We must not falter." Mira glanced at Thomas, who nodded with determination. Together, they advanced toward the monstrous leader, their hearts pounding in sync. They would not back down. As they approached the Krithar leader, a fierce struggle unfolded. Mira felt her strength wane, fatigue creeping in, but the thought of her friends kept her fighting. With each strike, she felt a connection to everyone around her, the villagers, the Zenthari, all united against a common foe. Finally, after a grueling confrontation, they managed to flank the Krithar leader, pushing it back with sheer willpower. The tides of the battle began to shift, the villagers rallying behind Mira and Thomas. The Krithar warriors began to falter, their confidence shaken. With one final push, Mira and Thomas struck the Krithar leader down, and a roar of triumph erupted from the villagers. They had done the impossible. They had fought back against an overwhelming force. But as they caught their breath, Mira knew this battle was just the beginning. They had fought hard, but the war was far from over. They needed to prepare for what was to come next. As the dust settled, Mira stood tall, surrounded by her friends and allies. Together, they had faced a storm and emerged victorious, but they knew that the future still held many challenges ahead. They would stand united, stronger than ever, ready to face whatever threats awaited them. The aftermath and new beginnings. The battlefield was eerily quiet now. the echoes of battle fading into a tense silence. As the last remnants of the Krethar forces retreated, Mira took a deep breath, allowing the weight of victory to settle over her. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and the mingled cries of the wounded. Despite the victory, a wave of sorrow washed over her as she looked around at the fallen. Thomas was at her side, surveying the scene. "We did it, Mira. We really did it," he said, his voice a mixture of disbelief and pride. "Yes, but at a cost," Mira replied, her heart heavy as she noticed several villagers tending to the injured, their faces marked by exhaustion and pain. "We must honor those who fought and fell today." Sara approached, its multiple eyes reflecting a solemn respect. "You fought with great courage," it said, the reverence in its tone clear. "Our bond has strengthened today. Together, we have proven that unity can overcome even the greatest of challenges." Mira nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility weighing heavily on her shoulders. "We need to help the injured and rebuild. This victory is just the first step in a long journey." As the villagers began to regroup and care for the wounded, Mira and Thomas worked side by side. They assisted the medics, offering water and support, doing everything they could to help those in need. The strength of their community shone brightly as they banded together, lifting each other up in the aftermath of battle. Days turned into weeks, and the village slowly began to heal. The scars of battle remained, but Mira could sense a renewed spirit among the villagers. The bonds they had formed with the Zenthari deepened, their cultures intertwining as they shared knowledge, skills, and stories. The alien warriors trained the villagers in new combat techniques, while the humans shared their ways of life, leading to a unique blend of traditions. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mira gathered everyone in the central square. The air was filled with laughter and music, a celebration of their survival and unity. The villagers danced under the stars, and the Zenthari moved gracefully, their movements mesmerizing. Thomas found Mira, holding a lantern that illuminated her face with a warm glow. "You've led us through the darkest times," he said softly, admiration shining in his eyes. "I don't think any of us could have done this without you." Mira smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It was all of us. We fought together, and we will continue to thrive together. This victory belongs to everyone." As the night wore on, Mira spotted Sara watching the festivities from a distance. She approached the Zenthari, who observed the humans with a mixture of curiosity and intrigue. "Are you enjoying the celebration?" Mira asked, her tone light. "Indeed," Kara replied, its multiple eyes reflecting the flickering lantern light. "Your customs are fascinating. This joy is different from what we experience, but it is beautiful." Mira felt a sense of connection with Tara, realizing that their friendship had transcended their differences. "You're welcome to join us. It's a time for all of us to celebrate what we've achieved." Sara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I will partake in your traditions. It is important for our people to understand each other better." As Kara joined the festivities, Mira felt a sense of hope blossom within her. They were building something greater than a simple alliance. They were creating a community that embraced both their cultures. As the weeks turned into months, the village flourished. Together, humans and Zenthari repaired homes, built new structures, and even established a council that represented both species. Mira found herself at the forefront of this new governance, working tirelessly to ensure that the needs and voices of everyone were heard. However, Mira knew that there were still challenges ahead. The Krethar might return, emboldened by their defeat, and there were rumors of other threats lurking in the galaxy. She spent hours strategizing with Sara and Thomas, preparing defenses and ensuring that the village remained strong. One day, as Mira reviewed plans for a new defense system with Tara, Thomas approached with a concerned look on his face. "Mira, we've received word from neighboring villages. They're struggling to recover from their encounters with the Krethar. We should offer our help." Mira nodded, her heart racing at the thought of expanding their efforts. Absolutely. We have to reach out. It's our duty to help those who are still in danger. Together, they organized a convoy, gathering supplies and volunteers to aid their neighbors. As they traveled from village to village, Mira felt a sense of purpose. They were not just defending their home. They were becoming a beacon of hope for others in need. In each village they visited, they were met with gratitude and admiration. Mira realized that their victory had sparked something greater than just a battle won. It was inspiring others to stand up and fight for their own futures. They were creating a movement of resilience and unity across the region. Back in their own village, the bonds between humans and Xanthari continued to strengthen. They shared stories around the fire, blending their cultures and traditions. Mira and Sarah often led discussions about their hopes and dreams for the future, envisioning a world where they could coexist one evening. As they sat under a blanket of stars, Mira turned to Sarah. "Do you think we will ever see a time when our people can live without fear of invasion?" Sarah considered her words. "Fear may always exist, but as long as we stand united, we can face any challenge. Together, we can create a future where peace reigns." Mira felt a surge of determination. "Then that is what we will strive for. We will show the galaxy that unity can conquer all." As they gazed up at the stars, Mira knew that their journey was just beginning. They had faced darkness together and emerged stronger, and with each step forward, they were forging a new destiny, a future where humans and Xanthari would stand side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would write their own story, a tale of resilience, hope, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the fires of conflict. The universe awaited them, and Mira was ready to embrace it all. Peacefully.